Hi all, Mads Barnkop from Kaizer Power Electronics. Today it is April the 18th. This makes it day 38 in isolation. Now businesses are from Monday opening up, and that is something like saloons, hairdressers, also some retail shops and so. And today's electrical subject, we will continue with the AC servo motor. And at the end of this video, we will play a bit with the rotor's magnet. So stay tuned for that.
What a lovely evening it is to do a teardown.
Today's teardown subject is this 3 kilowatt AC servo motor, and that is a lot heavier than I make it seems. So let's get this baby torn apart. From the motor data plate here, we can see it's a AC servo motor made by Yaskawa Electric in Japan. This is the model SGMGH-30DCA6F-OY. It is a 2900 watt rated unit for 1500 rounds per minute. This will consume 11.9 amps at 400 volts. This was constructed in week 4 in 2003, so that makes this a good 17 years old. At that point in time, this servo motor in this size was rather expensive. Now we all probably know the three-phased induction motor, which is a asynchronous motor, which means that the magnetic field moves faster than the rotor in the motor itself. Now a AC servo motor, or a permanent magnet AC motor, is a synchronous motor, which means that the magnetic field inside the stator moves at the same speed as the rotor. That makes it synchronous. Since it is also called a bladeless AC motor, or BLAC, or you may also have heard the PMAG, which is permanent magnet AC motor. The permanent magnet comes from that the rotor around the shaft here, you have the rotor mounted, it has permanent magnets installed in them. These are usually rare earth or neodymium magnets, so I'm really excited to see what kind of magnet we will find inside of this unit. And then you have the stator all around it with the winding on. The main difference between the induction motor and the servo motor is how feedback is gained. Now, feedback on an induction motor you can get from some kind of current consumption and some calculations on your frequency drive, but on a servo motor you actually have a rotational encoder sitting at the back of the motor to get a precise feedback of the motor's position. So here we will maybe see a optical or perhaps a magnetic encoder. I will also be quite interested to see what that is, because normally you would see optical encoders as they are the cheapest to make. So let's get this torn apart. But first, let's not forget something to drink. Cheers. So that took a bit of brute force to convince it to loosen up the back plate. So the shaft is kind of busted. I'm not quite sure how much I damaged this front bearing here, which is probably a rotor bearing. It says Japan, TMB 209 T2 X2CS22. Seems like a very high quality and good bearing. Let's see if it has any noise. It doesn't quite feel all even, so also a bit of jiggle. But now to the fun part. Let's get the rotor out of the stator, and I can really feel the permanent magnets now when I try to push the house down. It does like to get back in place again. Whoa, did you see that? Okay, just like that. And there we have it. Permanent magnets Seems like glued and taped. Okay, probably a little bit better than just glued, but at least with some kind of protective plastic or tape around it. And here we can actually see that they are not aligned in order to have them move inside the electromagnetic field. Be interesting to see if those are even able to get off the rotor again. There are some small dots here, and that is probably just weight for balancing this when they made it. That they simply had to add a little weight here and there to make it run 100% even. And now the stator. Actually, it's not much to see. Encapsulated in plastic, we can see the inside of the steel core. But other than that, not much to see then in there. We have the 3 wires from the plug coming in, and the 4th pin is the ground wire which goes to the chassis. With the kids sleeping, I really had to hacksaw my way through that. That was a bit harder than expected, but cheers. So let's see if we can get the stator out now. So besides being press fit into this aluminium housing, it just has this tiny little hole with a small notch or bolt into it. You can see it there. That's everything that holds the stator in play, stator in place. But here we can see the steel laminations, but it does seem like it was hole casted in plastic, all the windings. So I guess this goes straight to transformer scrap. Now the encoder. I will get this torn apart, take some pictures, and we will discuss it in a fashion where we can actually see the details of this construction. In this up-close shot of the encoder, we can see that the plug comes with a silicone plug. It has simply been hole casted to prevent any moisture from coming into the encoder itself. Now it has I see a sort of controller here, which is a 90G04F0029. It is some sort of microcontroller, but I have not been able to localize the datasheet on it. It is made in Japan. Now, I mentioned earlier that there is 2 types. We have the optical type and we have the magnetic type. And looking underneath here, it does seem like we have some blank platter running around here, which almost resembles a hard drive. So that could be a magnetic type. And we can see we have what appears to be a large black sensor here, but also with some kind of maybe optical glass surface right there under the platter. So once we take it apart, we will see what that really is. It is quite clear that this is constructed with reliability in mind, because we have varnish or lacquer on all screws and all brittle connections that are prone to be destroyed by vibrations in a motor. So we see there is some glue or very hard varnish used on all kinds of connection points. Right away, getting the PCB off, we can actually see it is a optical sensor. It has multiplied tracks of different thickness in order, as you can see, the screwdriver under the small platter here, which appears to be a small glass plate. The back side of the PCB actually has a quite funky IC sitting there. That's really interesting. That connects up to the optical sensor, but only via what seems like 2 wires. 2 wires from the front, nothing from the back side. Okay, that is really special. I'll see if I can get this magnified up in my microscope. But let's free up the optical sensor here. Does not seem like I can get the plate out. It's all glued in place with the varnish or some kind of glue. Okay, it's quite clear now that what we saw up here, the chip, that's not a chip, that seems to be a receiver, where we have the transmitting part down here. See just a tiny little hole there. And then we have the receiver here. Now this is super low tech, filming through my microscope with my phone. But as we can see, it has some very precise small lines around the edge, and in the middle we have this big fat line which the window can see through. This is probably to detect if the encoder is off center, and then you count on the small broken lines out around the edges on both sides of the big fat line. Here I am zoomed in very close on what I assume is the transmitting part, and we can see a whole series of small slits in the middle, and then we have some other fine counters on the inside of that big ring, and some what seems to be very rough on the outside. If we just try to peek a bit around here, we can actually see it has a text on the corner here where it says Y0024. But the whole circle we are looking at around here, that's around some 6 millimeter in diameter. Here in the what I assume is the receiving part, we can see that there is also the inner and outer and inner, and they each connect to each their pin out of this little PCB and out to some circuitry that can translate this analog detected signal into something digital. This little metallic housing with a glass bead lens on it, 2 legs, and it does not really look like a LED, as there is no kind of dye inside the lens to spot. So I'm not quite sure what kind of component this really is. It does say OJ or 0J on the side of it, but nothing more than that. So I am wondering if anyone knows what kind of lamp or light source this really is. The experimental setup here is I have the rotor with the permanent magnet sitting down here, and up here I have a container with some iron dust and smaller iron balls in it. This is from some kind of sand blasting, but with steel balls instead. Now this makes it quite clear to see the magnetic field from the rotor, and as you can see as I rotate this, that it bonds between the layers, and we can even see the skew alignment of the magnets. That because they are positioned as north and south poles, the field lines will connect between each row. And where they are standing straight up, that is the middle of the row of magnets, as we have the strongest or most dense magnetic field going there, and we have field lines going all across and higher up. And it can actually affect these steel balls or iron balls out to a distance of around 100 millimeters. So if I turn this slowly, we can really see how they come together. And what I really want you to pay attention to is what is happening to the small chains of iron balls out here, that they are rotating as they have been polarized by a north and south pole according to the changing magnetic field from the rotor. And as we can see, they slowly rotate around until they get attracted to the main mass. And if we go the other way, well, they also turn the other way. And the faster we go, at some point it just becomes impossible to see that it moves. But it's also funny to see that it can actually drive all the iron balls here to the one side, and it's the opposite side of the direction I'm turning it in. So you can see the magnetic field is moving to the right or downwards now in the screen, but all the iron balls here are moving upwards. And if I try to move towards the top of the screen, I hope you enjoyed this AC servo motor teardown. I hope you learned something, and until next time, see ya.